fate of nations as an educated person, to some degree depends on our meeting the 2030 goals that we're here to talk about.
My father was a diplomat. It's in my DNA. But there is a feeling in the United States amongst some people at the moment that the era of diplomacy is over, that we shouldn't even be talking to some of America's adversaries like Russia and Iran. Some people even suggest China. How do you counter that when you have a mood at home which, and you can understand to some extent, a reluctance amongst the American public after a long engagement in the Middle East that has not gone as well as one might have done. A mood at home that is less diplomacy, more focus inwardly.
Well, because a lot of people define our engagements abroad in the context of dropping bombs on people and being engaged in a war. And if people were to have a better sense that we can do diplomacy, which is helping to educate people and build healthcare capacity and create stability and show people how technology can lend itself to transparency and governance and accountability in governance, then we can begin to more effectively change some of these places. But I'll tell you, we have learned, you can't shut off the world. You can't. 95% of the world's customers live in other countries. People are fighting this concept of trade, but the trade is not the problem. It's how we treat workers who are dislocated by transition, or what we do with people to be able to not just see the 1%, the upper 1% of American income earners doing well while everybody else is either struggling to hold where they are or falling behind. That's a problem of our tax code. It's a problem of our political finance system. It's a problem of, a whole bunch of other things, but not the fault of trade itself. It's because we don't have a strong enough safety net to help people go to school, get ongoing education, find a job at age 45 or 50 or whatever, be able to move into another sector. And there's so many other things that people can be doing than we ask them to do. So I think that there are huge opportunities out there right now. A lot of the world is still living on $1 a day, $2 a day. There are millions of people to bring in from poverty, which means there are schools to be built, hospitals to be built, doctors to be trained, infrastructure to be built. There's a world to develop out there. And that's again what 2030 is trying to talk about. So if our vision will just be a little less narrow or myopic, and people who run around saying, no, we just got to take care of ourselves, there is no way just to take care of yourself in today's world. You will not grow your economy. You will not grow.
One of the issues that comes up in polling time and time again that interests me, I just wanted to focus on one issue because we could have addressed a million, climate change, whichever, is social inequality. As an American, as the senior American diplomat, how much can you do? What's achievable for the U.S. on this issue?
Well, we are doing an enormous amount. I mean, we have the Millennium Challenge Corporation. We do put some 22 billion plus or so into direct aid programs that help to develop people, build their capacity, do gender enhancing participation in countries, things like that. There are a lot of things that we're able to leverage. The problem is, it is at a scale that is just not going to get the job done. If you have 1.5 million kids who need to go to school tomorrow, it is going to do you a lot of good to have a 20-year horizon for those 1.5 million, because they're going to be 30 and whatever, and who knows what choice they're going to make in life if we don't do a better job of moving faster. So I think what we need, frankly, is a larger commitment by the United States to help lead other countries. At the end of World War II, we did the Marshall Plan. And people were not for it, by the way. Harry Truman had to work like hell to get that through. And it was, many people sort of resented the notion because we turned around and helped Germany rebuild. We helped Japan rebuild. But guess what? Today, Germany and Japan are two of the strongest allies we have, two of the most leading economies in the world, two democracies, working. It was an investment well worth the lending that we did. We didn't even give it money. It was a lending program, concessional lending for low-interest loans. We should be gathering the many more developed countries in the world now in an effort to grow what we do with World Bank, what we could do ourselves, the Global Fund. All of these kinds of things need a greater effort, because you've got a lot of countries that would like to reduce their emissions, like to be responsible nations to live up to the Paris Agreement, and they simply don't have the money to do anything to provide their electricity except take the cheapest source of power, which they're told is coal. The problem is, it's not. When you tally up the damage from all the storms, the droughts, the fires, the infestation of new diseases that live because it's warmer, they used to die. I mean, all these other costs are the true cost of climate change. And most cost accounting, when people make power choices, have no connection to the true cost. So that's part of what we have to change, is how people approach and think about it. Again, I just say to everybody, the United States showed leadership. I went to China within 2 months of being appointed secretary. We sat with the Chinese and got them to agree for the first time ever to a working group on climate change, geared to try to make sure our presidents could stand up in 2 years, in 1 year, and make an announcement that could rock the world with China and the United States joined together. Why was that important? Because only a few years earlier in Copenhagen, at the Conference of the Parties on Climate Change, it crashed. And it crashed because China was on the other side. China was part of the G77 that was fighting against anything happening. Nothing happened. So we changed that. President Xi and President Obama stood up and announced to the world, China and the United States cooperating on climate, both setting their targets for reductions, which then led other nations to say, whoa, this is serious business. Paris could actually happen. And we went to Paris and got an historic agreement with almost 200 nations signing on, each to their own reduction plan, but with a fixed way of reviewing it and trying to hold people accountable. And in the end, it will not be governments who save us with respect to the issue of climate change and keeping the Earth's temperature at 2 degrees centigrade. It will be the private sector that responds to the message that was sent in Paris, that there's going to be a new paradigm, and now there is a race of investment money, venture capital, angel investors, others, beginning to look for the, who's going to solve the battery storage problem? Who's going to provide the next generation of solar panels that are more efficient and that are less costly? And that's what's going to revolutionize the planet and save us on climate change. But we need leadership that understands it. And it's astounding to me that we've had people running for president of recent vintage who don't even acknowledge that climate change is taking place.